David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, America's most watched newscast. Now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day on Disney+. Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney+ every night.
Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air, thousands of additional U.S. Marines now headed to the Middle East. At least 2,200 Marines now on the way tonight. The deployment's fueling speculation about a possible ground operation in Iran. What could this look like? Global oil prices hovering around $108 a barrel tonight. Gas prices in the U.S. now up 98 cents a gallon since the war began. We'll go live to James Longman. Tonight, the lines at American airports are getting far worse. TSA security lines in some airports right through the terminal and stretching outside now. TSA officers going without pay, some travelers showing up 3 hours early for flights. And what are lawmakers doing to get these workers paid? Tonight, the mystery drones over a major military base in the U.S. Waves of high-tech drones flying over a highly sensitive area. That base housing B-52 bombers and the Air Force's nuclear command. Who's behind the drones? Tonight, the emergency playing out right now in Hawaii. They are now warning of a major dam that could fail. Also, the record heat in much of the U.S. and the warm-up coming in the east. Tonight, the dramatic testimony, the doctor and husband accused of trying to kill his wife while hiking. Prosecutors say he tried to push her off the edge, inject her with a syringe, and what they've now shown the jury. Tonight, the tributes here to actor Chuck Norris, known for his action movies and the TV show Walker, Texas Ranger. News of his death tonight coming one day after we learned of a medical emergency. Tonight, the death of that American college student discovered in 13 feet of water after going missing on spring break. What authorities are now saying about this tonight. In Boston tonight, the knife-wielding suspect accused of threatening to stab a bus driver, multiple injuries at the scene. Tonight, the surfer on how he survived that shark attack right off the coast. That shark biting him on both legs. And you know him well, Punch the Monkey. They grow up so fast. That zoo very excited tonight to show us Punch and his new girlfriend.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. We begin tonight here with the breaking news on the war in Iran. The U.S. deploying thousands more U.S. Marines to the Middle East. Increasing speculation tonight of a possible ground operation inside Iran and what that might look like. 2,200 Marines and thousands of sailors aboard 3 U.S. Navy warships now on the way. President Trump repeatedly pressed on whether he will order boots on the ground in Iran. Tonight, Israel and Iran trading airstrikes. Video showing debris from an Iranian missile crashing right into Jerusalem's Old City. Smoke seen rising from the site. Iranian drones hitting a Kuwaiti oil refinery. The global energy crisis growing. Oil prices at roughly $108 a barrel. Gas prices in the U.S. now up 98 cents a gallon since the war began. ABC's chief international correspondent James Longman leading us off tonight with news of these additional U.S. Marines now on the way.
U.S. officials tell ABC News tonight thousands more U.S. Marines are headed to the Middle East as the Trump administration weighs options on how to reopen the critical Strait of Hormuz. New video shows the USS Boxer and 2 more massive Navy amphibious ships leaving San Diego, at least 2,200 Marines on board. It's the second deployment of a Marine expeditionary unit just in the last week, equipped with ground forces, fighter jets, Ospreys and attack helicopters. With the U.S. already striking more than 7,000 targets inside Iran, this deployment is sparking escalation. Those Marines could conduct ground operations. Options include seizing Iran's Karg Island, the hub of the country's oil economy, or carrying out raids on the Iranian coastline to try to force Iran to reopen the dangerous Strait of Hormuz. Tonight, the White House says there is no plan to send ground troops anywhere at this time. But President Trump hasn't ruled out putting boots on the ground. And late today, the president was asked if he has a plan for Iran's Karg Island.
Well, I may have a plan or I may not, but how would I ever say that to a reporter? If I said that to a reporter, Marco would say, please, sir, let's bring you over to the helicopter immediately. Right? No, I can't tell you that. It's certainly a place that's people are talking about, but I can't say yeah.
Tonight, the president blasted Americans' NATO allies, calling them cowards for not helping to secure the strait. Trump saying they complain about the high oil prices they're forced to pay, but don't want to help open the Strait of Hormuz. But many of those American allies have signaled they did not start this war and they weren't consulted before President Trump launched it nearly 3 weeks ago. Tonight, the president says the Strait of Hormuz could be opened with a, quote, simple military maneuver.
It's a simple military maneuver. It's relatively safe, but you need a lot of help in the sense of you need ships, you need volume.
Tonight, French President Emmanuel Macron says France is ready to help escort ships passing through the strait once the situation calms down. Iran tonight continuing its retaliation. An explosion in the heart of Jerusalem's Old City. Smoke billowing into the sky. You see the moment of impact sending debris shooting into the air. Several people have been reportedly injured by missile shrapnel.
I looked up and suddenly I saw a cannonball just falling above me.
Our Tom Sufi Burridge is there.
Well, you can see the force of the blast from those missile fragments. We heard the thud from our hotel. We're in the Jewish Quarter in the Old City, just yards away from some of the holiest sites in the world.
Tonight, the global oil shockwaves. Oil is now hovering around $108 a barrel. Gas prices in the US are up nearly $1 since Trump launched the war, $3.92 per gallon. And tonight, the new numbers from the Pentagon. We're now learning at least 232 US troops have been injured, 10 of them seriously, the majority suffering traumatic brain injuries. 13 US service members have been killed. And a US-based monitoring group says at least 1,300 Iranian civilians have been killed and more than 1,100 military personnel. Allah. And tonight, all over the world, millions of Muslims marking the end of Ramadan and the Persian New Year. Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, who still hasn't been seen publicly since he was injured in the same attack that killed his father, has claimed to be behind a new defiant statement. He called the US strategy flawed and says it's backfiring. Late today, leaving the White House for Mar-a-Lago, the president was asked about Pope Leo, who's calling for a ceasefire.
Well, look, we can have dialogue, but I don't want to do a ceasefire. You know, you don't do a ceasefire when you're literally obliterating the other side.
And David, as the Pentagon considers how to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and calm global oil prices, we're hearing, of course, more US troops are heading to this region. The president has tonight posted to social media saying he's considering winding down the US operation in Iran and that the US is very close to meeting its objectives. David?
James Longman leading us off all week long here from the Middle East. James, thank you. Back here in the U.S. tonight, day 35 now of this partial government shutdown, and the lines at airports are getting worse tonight. TSA workers going without pay for weeks now, and now TSA security lines in some airports are running right through the terminal and stretching outside. Some travelers showing up 3 hours early, and tonight here we ask, what are lawmakers doing to get these workers paid again? Here's Whit Johnson.
Tonight, on day 35 of the partial government shutdown, long security lines snaking through airports and reaching the parking lot from New York's LaGuardia to George Bush Intercontinental in Houston. TSA workers who haven't seen a paycheck in 3 weeks calling out sick in droves.
I hope we pay these people. They deserve to be paid. It's ridiculous what we're going through.
Yesterday, more than 30% of TSA officers missing from work at both of Houston's airports. At Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, nearly 32% of TSA workers not showing up, many who say they have to find other ways to support their families. Today, wait times reaching 2 hours. One checkpoint closed again. Airport officials urging travelers to arrive 3 hours early.
It's going to take some patience on the part of our customers. I mean, the lines are going to be longer.
The issues appearing to escalate throughout the week.
How frustrating is it for you as a passenger?
It's really frustrating, you know, because you're just being, thrown around like, like your luggage.
TSA officer Sherry Quick telling ABC News without a paycheck, she now has to choose between paying for gas or her light bill.
It's a very stressful and frustrating knowing that I'm still expected to work without pay. I've had to stretch every dollar. I've had to rely on help from my family.
On Capitol Hill, no signs of a breakthrough yet. But for the second day in a row, Border Czar Tom Homan meeting with lawmakers from both parties. Late today, a fifth vote to end the partial shutdown failing in the Senate.
The motion is not agreed to.
Democrats still demanding reforms to immigration enforcement, including requiring agents to take off masks and wear body cameras. But they say they're willing to fund other agencies within DHS, including TSA, as negotiations play out.
The only reason these workers are going without pay right now is because Republicans are holding their funding hostage.
But Republicans say splitting up funding is a non-starter.
Of course, with these TSA lines, I think there's a real demand there by the public for Democrats to join us.
And David, with millions of Americans traveling for spring break, the transportation secretary is warning the long lines we're seeing at airports like this one here across the country will look like child's play compared to what's coming next week. David.
All right, Whit Johnson back with us. Whit, we'll see you here this weekend. Tonight, the mystery drones over a major U.S. military base in Louisiana. Waves of high-tech drones flying over the highly sensitive area. That base housing B-52 bombers and the Air Force's nuclear command. So who's behind the drones? Here's our chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katersky.
Tonight, law enforcement officials are warning of a significant threat to public safety and national security after swarms of high-tech drones invaded the airspace over one of the nation's most strategic military installations for nearly a week. A confidential briefing document reviewed by ABC News said earlier this month, multiple waves of 12 to 15 drones flew for hours at a time over sensitive areas of Barksdale Air Force Base near Shreveport, Louisiana, home of B-52 bombers and the Air Force's nuclear command.
And the Air Force was not able to do anything to stop them.
The drones operated in loose formations, then dispersed across sensitive locations on the base, and they're unlike anything available off the shelf. The document said these drones have a much longer range and are resistant to jamming.
The sophistication we see in both how the drones were employed and the kinds of drones don't point to some hobbyist. They point to a state actor.
Barksdale Air Force Base confirmed to ABC News it is investigating multiple unauthorized drones operating in our airspace during the week of March 9th, not long after the start of the war with Iran.
The analysis we reviewed, David, said these still unexplained incursions are expected to continue, and law enforcement officials, David, have long expressed concerns about the country's ability to defend itself from drones. David?
And our team will stay on this too. Aaron, thank you. We are tracking an emergency unfolding in Hawaii at this hour. Thousands have been told to evacuate multiple towns north of Honolulu tonight. Heavy rains flooding the area. They're now warning a major dam there could fail. Back on the U.S. mainland, record heat in much of the country tonight and the warm-up coming to the east this weekend. So let's get right to WABC Chief Meteorologist Lee Goldberg. And Lee, I know you're going to start with this dire situation in Hawaii tonight.
Yeah, it's the second of two soaking storms this week for Hawaii. We still have flash flood emergencies in effect for the island of Oahu and flash flood watches across all the Hawaiian Islands into the weekend. More rounds of heavy rain and thunderstorms, gusty winds through Sunday. Over a half foot of rain possible, and unfortunately that rain lingers into next week. Now to the record-breaking heat wave in the west. Dozens of records shattered, including all-time March heat, in some cases higher than April records. Extreme heat warnings extended for the weekend in LA and Las Vegas and Phoenix. Now that heat is spreading east into the plains. From Dallas to Kansas City, temperatures soaring into the 90s through Sunday. Some of that warmth getting to the east. It's not records, but it's a nice break from the cold blast. David?
Yeah, those are incredible numbers, though, Lee. Thank you. Next tonight, the dramatic testimony here. The doctor and husband on trial accused of trying to kill his wife while hiking. Prosecutors say he tried to push her off the edge, inject her with a syringe, and what they've now shown the jury. Here's Trevor Ault.
Tonight, dramatic new evidence in the trial of a Hawaii anesthesiologist accused of trying to kill his wife during a hike on her birthday.
State's Exhibit 22 is an image of the face of Ms. Ariel Koenig.
Prosecutors presenting graphic images of his wife Ariel's head injury as they claim last year Gerhard Koenig tried to push her off a steep cliff, tried injecting her with a syringe, and then repeatedly smashed a jagged rock into her head.
Help! 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 Is what Ariel says while the defendant is hitting her.
Help, help, help. This woman is one of the hikers who testified they found Koenig on top of his wife, her face covered in blood. The hikers making this 911 call.
Someone's currently being attacked on the top of Polypuka. There's a man trying to kill her.
Prosecutors claim Koenig planned the attack because of an alleged affair. And minutes later, on the phone with his son, they say he confessed.
He says, I'm not going to make it back. I tried to kill Ari, but she got away.
But Koenig denies he ever confessed. His attorney says this was an unplanned scuffle between the couple. She hit him with the rock first, and he acted in self-defense.
They're on the ground. She picks up a rock and hits him in the face with it.
And David, Koenig's now ex-wife Ariel is scheduled to testify on Tuesday. That is her birthday, which means it's the one-year anniversary of this alleged attack. David?
Trevor Ault on this case for us. Trevor, thank you. We're going to turn next tonight to the tributes to actor Chuck Norris, known for his action movies and the TV show Walker, Texas Ranger. News of his death tonight coming one day after we learned of a medical emergency that sent him to the hospital. Tonight, Steve Osunsami looking back at Chuck Norris and his career.
This was the scene where Chuck Norris first became a worldwide action film legend. The 1972 cult classic Way of the Dragon, where he famously loses a battle royale to the one and only Bruce Lee. Norris's family tonight confirms the actor was hospitalized recently in Hawaii, where he died Thursday morning. His 86th birthday was just last week when he posted this video on social media showing he could still win a fight.
I don't age, I level up.
He was a martial arts expert, famous for doing his own stunts.
You want to do it the easy way or the hard way?
During the 1980s, he was a household name in the missing in action films.
Chuck Norris.
Then in the 1990s, a star of television, fighting criminals on Saturday nights in the hit series Walker, Texas Ranger.
You have the right to remain silent.
And in the last years of his life, he became an icon on the internet as the ultimate tough guy. Norris was a proud conservative in Hollywood who once famously skydived with former President George H.W. Bush. The tributes are pouring in. Sylvester Stallone saying he was all-American in every way. He was born Carlos Ray Norris and leaves behind 5 children who share tonight that he lived his life with faith, purpose, and an unwavering commitment to the people he loved. Their Hollywood star that burned bright is now dimmed.
Chuck Norris being remembered tonight. Steve, thank you. Tonight, the economy, the war in Iran, rising oil and gas prices weighing heavily on the stock market. Down for the 4th week in a row, the Dow losing 443 points today. The NASDAQ and S&P 500, you can see down 2. The Dow and NASDAQ nearing correction territory now. When we come back on this Friday night, that missing American college student found dead, his body in 13 feet of water, disappearing while on spring break, and what police are now saying tonight about his death. Also, the surfer who survived a shark attack right off the U.S. coast, the shark biting both of his legs. You'll hear from that surfer right here tonight. A recall for a certain kind of ibuprofen tonight. We'll have it for you. And Punch the Monkey, that zoo, very excited tonight to introduce us to his new girlfriend. We'll be right back. Tonight, the death of that American college student while on spring break in Barcelona. The body of James Gracie recovered from the water near a beachfront nightclub. Spanish media tonight now reporting surveillance video shows he was walking alone toward the dock when he fell in the water. Police believe his death was an accident. In Boston tonight, police arresting a man accused of threatening to attack a bus driver with a butcher knife. Several people, including 2 officers, injured in the struggle to detain the man. One officer's gun discharging during the scuffle. No one was hit. When we come back tonight, the shark attack right off the U.S. coast, biting both legs, and that recall tonight for a certain kind of ibuprofen in a moment here. To the index of other news, we hear from the surfer attacked by that shark in Northern California, James Eastman, suffering bites to both legs off the coast of Mendocino.
I just started kind of pushing it and batting it on the nose, trying to free myself from it. And then eventually it let go.
Eastman saying he was able to stay on his surfboard and make it back to shore. He says the entire time he was thinking of his wife and his child. We're glad he's okay. Tonight, that recall for 90,000 bottles of liquid pain reliever for children. Taro Pharmaceuticals recalling 4-ounce bottles of children's ibuprofen oral suspension. The recall after some people claim they found a gel-like mass and black particles in it. The FDA saying there are no reports of adverse health effects. We have more on our website. When we come back tonight, Punch the Monkey, that zoo very excited tonight to show us his new girlfriend. Finally tonight here, he's lonely no longer. Tonight, they grow up so fast. Punch the Monkey and that zoo outside Tokyo now says he has a girlfriend. You remember that little monkey abandoned by his mother, shunned by the other monkeys. Zookeepers giving him that stuffed orangutan from IKEA to try to help him build his confidence. Cuddling, dragging that stuffed animal everywhere he went. His fellow primates grooming him, hitching a ride in the back of this monkey before falling off. Back in the U.S., so many zoos here trying the same experiment, from the San Antonio Zoo, where that gorilla was unfazed, to the Phoenix Zoo and the hug. Well, tonight, new pictures from the San Francisco Zoo. Apparently, it's working there. And tonight, Punch, outside Tokyo, look at this, walking up to his new girlfriend, hugging her. And now so many visiting that zoo, sharing videos of the two cuddling together, playing together, even kissing. Tonight, Punch's fans now say this is the fairy tale ending he deserved. Good for Punch. He's going to have a good weekend. I'll see you right back here on Monday. From all of us here, good night.
David Muir, the most trusted anchor in America, the most watched anchor in America. Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir the #1 newscast in America.